Okay, I'm here with my Stynol. Listen, I was just reading, I'm putting these glasses on because not even I can look at the sty. Listen, I'm just reading through some of these comments, and there's this whole thing about grapes in the comments. And I am fiercely devoted to your freedom. I am fiercely devoted to your freedom. Isn't this the cutest robe? I'm fiercely devoted to your freedom, and we need to be so careful about vilifying food. We need to be so careful because eating disorders are tricky little mother fluffers. This is something I have been in this career for so long. Eating disorders and disordered eating are tricky little mother fluffers. And eliminating sugar and flour is an addiction. Starting to eliminate other foods is often, and not always, is often disordered eating. And I was reading the post, something from Glucose Goddess. I'm obsessed with Glucose Goddess on Instagram. If you don't follow her, she's a good follow. I mean, if you're up there, follow me too, please. So here's the deal. Glucose Goddess put up this post about strawberries and the glycemic load that they hold. And then she put up grapes and the glycemic load that they hold. And yeah, of course, grapes are more sugary than strawberries. Strawberries have more fiber than grapes. But what everybody read from that is that you shouldn't eat grapes. So not true. Here's the other thing. I mean, if you're really a breaking up a sugar person, and you're following some version of the relationship rebuild plan, the RRP that everybody's talking about, nowhere in that RRP does it say that you should have fruit by itself. So, because the other thing that Glucose Goddess says all of the time, there's like, I know this because I send this to my sister all the time because my goddaughter is hypoglycemic and they're feeding her just bagels with nothing on it and just fruit with nothing on it. And I know that that's not good for her blood sugar. So because in the relationship rebuild plan, every single time that you have a fruit, it's with a protein. And if you go to Glucose Goddess, you will see she makes these dope charts that show when you eat fruit and when you eat fruit with protein. So you are missing the headline on what she is saying. If we are reading from that chart that grapes are bad, it is, and by the way, I'm also coming out of Sugar Summitville, and I was reading, it's like we need to be really informed, and we need to be really clear on who we're trusting and the information that we're taking in. And that's taking in like kind of the wrong information from what Glucose Goddess is saying. Now listen, it also may be true that you eat a serving of grapes with some cheese, with some turkey, with some almonds, and you're like, yeah, Ma, like that's not working for me. But I really hope in all of this, like my greatest hope in all of this, all of the time, is that you have full freedom, because breaking up with sugar and flour is a lot to give up. And after we break up with sugar and flour, it's my hope long term. I understand I couldn't eat oatmeal my first year because I'm part horse and I just wanted to eat all the oatmeal, and I still don't eat that much oatmeal today. Like there are things that work for you and there are things that don't work for you, but we cannot be reading that grapes are bad. Grapes come from the earth. Things that come from the earth just can't be that bad for us. However, our endocrine systems have been pretty hijacked by this world. And so, yeah, I think for many of us, because of the diet drama and what that's done to our insulin receptors and what that's done to our endocrine system, it's hard to eat fruit in and of itself. And so when I'm reading, sometimes I'm reading, I ate an English muffin and I ate like something else that's just a straight carbohydrate. And there's nothing wrong with carbohydrates. It's the combining of carbohydrates and protein and carbohydrates and fat that really has it. But frozen grapes are the best. But if it were me, I wouldn't. The RRP, like if you're doing the food plan that we're suggesting here, there's no time that we say on that RRP two things. There's no time that we say, yeah, just eat some fruit. We say, yeah, for your snack that you're having, and sometimes people have 2 snacks a day in the beginning, we suggest that you have like a fruit and a protein. Like it's a whole thing. But we never say like, oh yeah. And the other thing is like, we never say like, oh yeah, just like eat this right now. Because as you know, one of the vows is meal regulation. So like, it's so easy in this world. This is what I'm recognizing. And I always recognize after I come off of a summit, because I feel your energy with you. There's just, there's so much, and Glucose Goddess gives good information, but you take what you want and you leave the rest. And I promise you, Glucose Goddess is not saying that grapes are bad. And the other thing is that about Robert Lustig talking about grapes, but he wasn't talking about grapes. Robert Lustig is talking about dates and raisins, and he calls dates and raisins little bags of sugar. But the reason that he calls them that is because dried fruit is like the most condensed sugar that a person can eat, right? Because it takes out, when you take out all of the water, which grapes have in them, when you take out all of the water from them, that's what makes it condensed sugar. And actually, it's what makes it condensed fructose. And fructose is actually the worst thing for you of all the sugars. Fructose is effectively alcohol without the buzz. So dried fruit, I would say, is on the no-go list. There's never a time I'm eating dried fruit. But fruit in and of itself can be really challenging. And perhaps you're doing your own version of the RRP, which is, you do you, boo. But if you're just having straight fruit, like that's a vibe. Like that's a problem. Well, it's not a problem. It's only a problem if you're having blood glucose spikes. So the point is, I really want us to have a beautiful relationship with food. And if we're looking to vilify foods, that really is disordered eating. You know what I mean? Like the last thing I want for any of us in this, is to move from an unhealthy relationship with sugar to like another disordered eating. Like that's another thief and another terrorist. So let's get the information straight here. The information that I'm giving you today is that fruit is okay, right? And yeah, some fruits are more sugary than others, and perhaps you want to be in the first 66 days. What about fruits and smoothies? So when we make our food into liquid, if you have a food addiction, if you've taken the quiz in chapter 4, anything that you're drinking is the quickest spike. It is the quickest spike to your blood glucose. I would say if you even ranked on the relationship scale, if you even ranked on it, if you picked 3 things and you said, yeah, I agree with this. I agree. I would not ever do a smoothie. Smoothies and people who have food addictions are a 0 match. Now, you may be like, I don't agree with you, Molly. I mean, you certainly don't have to agree with me. My opinion was asked in that. But this is like literally in the vows chapter of breaking up with sugar, when it says we don't drink our calories. My writing partner, Alex, who's some of your therapists, she wrote, it's so much, I can't even like say it. It's just so much better written in there. It's a really the study, that's my favorite study of all the studies. I say that a lot, but this is one of my favorite studies, which is they show what happens to blood glucose when you eat an apple, when you eat applesauce, and when you drink apple juice. And the minute it gets into that consistency, and by the way, because you like roll out all the fiber, effectively, a smoothie is like flour because you're grinding out all of the stuff that actually gives you the fiber and gives you the sustenance. So the blood glucose rises so significantly with applesauce. Don't even get me started with apple juice, because apple juice is like having a beer, as I say to my sister often. So she says, can you get some orange juice? And I say, do you want me to just give him beer at breakfast? So anyway, this is my little rant, but this is my little rant because I'm ferocious and I'm fierce. And I'm in the business of helping you get everything that you want in your relationship with food. And if we start to vilify food, then that's a problem. That's my problem also sometimes when we're watching sugar summits and people are, saying, well, you can have maple syrup, you can have this. If you're up for it today, and you're sort of confused of what I'm talking about, my recommendation would be to go back to the book today, and I would suggest you read 2 chapters. I would read the second chapter, and I would read the vows chapter. And maybe if you're up for it, go back to the relationship rebuild plan, because I'm not one that ever, I mean, first of all, vilifying foods is so disordered. It's so disordered. We don't even vilify sugar. We just say, it doesn't work for me and I get addicted to it. In a way we vilify it, but starting to vilify fruit is so close to disordered eating, you guys. Like, and listen, you may be like, I'm fine, Ma. Like, I'm good. Like, good. I hope you are fine. But for those of you who are feeling really vulnerable because somebody's saying like, oh, grapes are bad. Grapes are not bad. Grapes are not good. Grapes are not bad. Grapes are delicious fruit that sometimes we can have and sometimes we can't. But listen, I push hard because I think a lot of this happens that we start to fragilize ourselves, This is like sort of why, if you're over on Instagram or on my Facebook page, this is why I'm starting to talk about the scale a little more. Like, I'm just not sure you all believe exactly what you think. And I think you're very susceptible to people telling you that things are bad. So am I, I promise. But can we stick with the research? When we break up with sugar and flour, I think that that's enough to break up with. And then it's about, eating foods in a way that serves your body. And, if you have a vulnerable body, if you're like a 10 out of 12 on that scale, I would say, you don't eat fruit alone to the best of your ability. And also just be mindful with snacking in general. There's a lot of research in the vows chapter on that. Just throwing grapes in your mouth, just isn't a good idea for anybody who has a questionable relationship with food, because it's probably a time where you need to be using a skill or checking in on a feeling, and it's not time to eat. And then it just makes food so important. It puts food in an unnecessary position. So anyway, thank you for listening to my TED Talk. I'm in the midst of trying to do 100 things, including write the love letter today. And I just saw this on the page, and I think we have to be really careful about things like this. It's kind of the way that our media has gone these days, where it's we see this picture and we see that the blood spikes up because of grapes, and then our first response is, oh, grapes are bad. That is not remotely the headline that you should read from that, because I'll say it one more time, because A, grapes are not bad. They just happen to have a higher spike in blood glucose. I mean, if they put raisins on there, be off the charts. And also, if you're really a breaking up a sugar person, there's never a time where in breaking up a sugar, we've said eat grapes by themselves. We would say eat grapes with a protein. That's what the RRP says. So, thank you. I love you. Go read if you don't have the book, the book is so clear on this stuff. This book is clear on smoothies. This book is clear on fruit. There's literally chapters that says, what about fruit? Literally, it says, what about fruit in the vows chapter? And literally the RRP is very well laid out. And even there is a doc in here that talks about the RRP. The RRP is freedom. If you need to negotiate that RRP to add yourself more food because it isn't working for you, or, align it to your nutritional needs or your religious needs, whatever, but somebody who has an issue with sugar probably shouldn't be eating fruit in and of itself any day of the week, ever, ever, ever. And if that works for you, that's you. I'm just your guide here. I'm just here to help you, get there. And anyway, I know this is a long time from now, but in January, we're launching a pretty big program, and there will be an add-on program in that program to just be doing food with you, because I know how hard that can be. And so stay tuned for that in January, I know. But we're also launching a program in October to get us through the Bermuda Triangle. It's going to be awesome. Bermuda Triangle is Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And so we're launching a program to get us through that too. All right. I have to go get my life together. I could talk to you all day. Don't villainize foods. I love you. I mean, we can villainize sugar all day and flour, but don't villainize it. I mean, fruit just comes from the ground, my loves. I don't have time for us all to be getting eating disorders in here. You know what I mean? This is a freedom group, not an eating disorder group. Freedom, freedom, freedom. I love you. Ask me any questions you need to. I'll try to get to this today. I have a pretty big day, but I'll try to get to this in the next few days. And know that there is a food program coming in January. Just takes a long time for us to get things done because life is lifey. All right, I'm going to go take Louis for a walk. I want to see the cutest thing, just in case you're wondering what is cute today. That is cute. That is cute. Louis, say hi to everybody. Louis, say hi. Yeah, that's the vibe. He's like not interested. Okay, well, okay. I'm interested. I love you guys.